Larissy, 1, 2, 3. Folks, I'm going to give you a moment or so. Folks, going once, going twice. Come on, Bill, have a seat here. Bill, have a seat. Have a seat here. Hold things up. I'm just going to wait for a moment here now, folks. We're going to start. We're going to get the music turned off, please.
Music went off and I went off. Wow, nice quiet now.
That's Geraldine trying to tell you something.
Here I stand, a tiny little figure. If the girls don't like me now, they'll like me when I'm bigger. I got it? Thank you, Harold. Good evening, folks. My name is Peter Larissy. I born and raised here in Cupid, still live here. I'm going to deal with a couple of logistical items before we begin. First of all, washrooms are down in the back, right at the back there. You go through that one door, you'll find all the washrooms you need. We have a bar. Most of you have already discovered this location. We have exits. There's an exit to the right of the bar. There's an exit right here to my left, your right. And there's also an exit over here that leads to a stairwell. And if accessibility is an issue for you, there's a ramp out this door right here. And down in the back, to my right, there is an elevator as well. It will bring you down to ground floor. So those are the important things. Oh, by the way, we're also a non-smoking facility. So if you want to have a smoke, you have to go outside and walk at least 2 miles away from the building. So folks, here we are all together. That's great. Thank you so much for coming. The most obvious question is, where are we and why are we here? Obviously, you're in Cupid, so the Cupid's Legacy Center. This was a legacy project as part of our 400th anniversary celebrations that took place in 2010. And of course, we're here to commemorate, but also to celebrate and to reflect on the 150th anniversary of the loss of the schooner Waterwitch and everything that surrounds that. So what exactly are we commemorating? Well, much has been written about the Waterwitch. I've decided I'm going to take a moment just to give you some context for the gathering here tonight. And I'm going to be reading to you a very short article that was recently written about the Waterwitch by author Ainsley Hawthorne. Ainsley is actually here. Ainsley, do you want to stand up and let everybody? Come on, don't be shy, girl. There you go, wave, do your best. So the article was posted online on Saturday, November 29th. That's last Saturday, which was to the day, the 150th anniversary of the loss of the schooner Waterwitch. How's that? Right to the day. And so I've taken the liberty to do a few edits and add a few things on there. I hope you don't mind. She's nodding her head. That's a good sign. I don't want to get in trouble here. So I'm going to share that with you now, just to give you a context for our gathering here this evening. So this was posted online last Saturday, and I'm going to read it as it was posted on Saturday, November 29th, and it reads as follows. 150 years ago today, the schooner Waterwitch sailed out of St. John's Harbor and into a storm that would change the lives of everybody on board. Within hours, they would be in a fight for survival that would lead to one of Newfoundland and Labrador's most daring rescues. Wrecked at the base of steep cliffs, 3 survivors managed to climb 600 feet in the darkness and walk 1.5 miles to Pooch Cove in order to get help. It would take a team of rescuers working together to save the remaining men who were stranded on a ledge near the water. In the end, 13 people survived, while 12 perished. More than 2,000 mourners attended the funeral in Cupid's the Waterwitch's home port. So many that the local clergyman had to preach on the doorstep because there simply was not enough room in the church for all the people. Both Pooch Cove and Cupid's have made plans for hosting memorial events during the past week. There was a dinner in Pooch Cove last Saturday, November the 29th, and in addition, a dinner and historical lecture is taking place here in Cupid's tonight. That's why you're here. And the date, of course, is December the 6th. And this is the actual day of the 150th anniversary of the burial service in the Cupid's United Church for 9 victims of the disaster. And those 9 victims were members of the Methodist congregation here in Cupid's at the time. The congregation had been in great anticipation of a joyous Christmas celebration. That's what they had planned as their inaugural service, because they had a brand new church built in 1875, and they were trying to get it finished for Christmas. Instead, tragically, the very first service, the inaugural service, was the burial service for 9 victims of the Waterwitch. So that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to call upon Maria May now, Vice Chair of the Cupid's Legacy Incorporated, to bring greetings on behalf of Cupid's Legacy Center, and she's also going to share a land acknowledgement with us. So Maria, if you come forward, please.
Hello, I'm Maria May. I'm here to welcome you all on behalf of the Board of Legacy Center. And thank you for joining us for a very special evening to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the sinking of the Waterwitch and the incredible rescue of survivors by the townspeople of Pooch Cove. A special welcome goes out to our Member of Parliament, Paul Connors, our Member of the House of Assembly, Helen Conway Ottenheimer. There you are. and our Mayor, Rod Delaney. Where are you, Rod? Oh, there you are. I'm like, where are you? There you are. Given the storm last night, it's no trouble to imagine the terrible suffering of passengers and the incredible bravery of those who came out to rescue them on that stormy night, November 29th, 1875, 150 years ago. It must have been unbelievable to make that effort. We'd like to acknowledge that the lands that we're on today are in the traditional territories of diverse Indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. Thank you to the Waterwitch Organizing Committee from Cupid's and from Pooch Cove. And thank you to Skipper Benz for cooking up what will be a wonderful meal for us this evening. And please enjoy.
So folks, just a note, thank you so much, Maria. Just a note, the program this evening, there's a pre-meal program and there's a post-meal program. So we're going to take care of a few things on the program before we actually get to the meal. And you have a program there in front of you. There might be a little bit of variation between what you have, what you see in front of you, and what I'm actually going to be addressing as we go along. So if we get through the program and something has been missed, I'd appreciate somebody getting my ear. Tom Fitzpatrick just came over and got my ear, and I said, Tom, I got it. We got it. But thank you, Tom, for bringing it to my attention. So we have Mary Barry here with us. Where are you, Mary? Right here. Mary, I hear you're a bit of a jazz singer, are you?
Oh, no.
Can you do a jazzed up version of O Canada for us? You can lead us. You're hoping everybody, my gosh, everybody, you're not going to leave you by yourself. Are you used to doing solos?
Lifetime solo.
A lifetime solo.
Mike is yours.
I was just talking about jazz back there, and I can't believe you just said that. So,
I'm counting on all of you to sing along because you know now we all know "Oh Canada," right? Okay, the trick is finding a key because I have a deep voice and I'm always thinking, oh my God, it's gonna be too low for the women and the boys will be fine. So I'm gonna really do my best to go in between. So if it's too low, just say, Mayor, give it a shot, another one. Steph, hats off. Okay. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our thoughts command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I'm so happy, so much to right? This is a beautiful, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you indeed. We have three special guests here tonight from a political perspective. I'm going to call on them in turn. I'm going to start with Mr. Paul Connors. He's the Member of Parliament for Avalon District. Mr. Connors, if you come forward, please.
Good evening, everyone. I have a deep voice, but in school, if a choir we had to sing, they used to put me in the back. They wouldn't let me sing. So I appreciate your deep voice. As the Member of Parliament for Avalon, it is my honour to be bringing greetings on behalf of the Government of Canada. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to the members of the Waterwitch community for their invitation, marking the 150th anniversary of the tragedy that profoundly affected so many families. While I had heard of the Waterwitch disaster before, it was not until I had a meeting here with the Cupid's Legacy Centre last summer that I came to understand the details and the powerful connection forged between Pooch Cove and Cupid's when the residents risked their own lives to save the survivors. In speaking with people, I realized just how deeply this event shaped both communities, binding them together, sharing their loss, and showing their resilience. As with all defining moments in our history, it is vital that we remember, honor those who were lost, and preserve the story for future generations of Newfoundland and Labradorians. Once again, thank you for welcoming me here tonight and for the dedication to safeguarding the culture, heritage, and history of this province. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. I'd like to call upon the Honorable Helen Conway Ottenheimer, the Member of the House of Assembly for Harbour Main District now, please.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. It is truly my honor and privilege to be here as the MHA for Harbour Main to help mark a pivotal and solemn moment in the history of Newfoundland and Labrador, the 1875 Waterwitch tragedy. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Member of Parliament Paul Connors, as well as Mayor Rod Delaney, And I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, Minister Jody Wall, Minister of Social Supports, Wellbeing and Housing. He was unable to attend and brings his regrets. He actually had 6 other commitments in his district this evening. So as a lifelong resident of Pooch Cove, Jody, he has been instrumental in his role as MHA to help with this event, and joined with me in terms of acknowledging the invaluable importance of this event. And we did work hard to advocate for funding and financial support for this event. So I thank him also for his contribution. While today is about preserving the memory of the 12 victims who perished during the shipwreck, we are also acknowledging the extraordinary bravery and humanity shown by the residents of Pooch Cove during the rescue efforts. Preserving the stories and memories of events like the Waterwitch tragedy is really essential to understanding who we are as a province. This tragic event occurred 150 years ago, and it still stands as a powerful testament to the resilient spirit and deep community bonds of our province. And these community bonds were demonstrated 150 years ago when approximately 1,300 people attended the funerals of 9 of the victims in Cupid's United Church. These bonds have also been demonstrated yet again today, thanks to the many attendees here this evening at this event. It's historical narratives like the Waterwitch tragedy that connect generations and foster a sense of belonging. Mr. Vern Whalen is a great example of that connection. I'm really looking forward to hearing his story and his relationship to the Waterwitch tragedy. Those are the narratives and connections that ensure that the lessons and legacies of the past are not forgotten. By formally acknowledging these moments, we are honoring those people who came before us and reinforce our commitment to safeguarding the heritage that shapes our collective identity. Heritage is really who and what we are. It includes our customs, places, and values. And I commend the Waterwitch Committee for protecting, preserving, and promoting our heritage. Thank you so much for that. The cultural heritage of Newfoundland and Labrador belongs to all of us. In turn, it is our collective responsibility to preserve and to celebrate what we have. Thank you to the committee. Thank you to each and every one of you in this room for doing your part tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conway-Oppenheimer. Those kind words. And last but not least, we have His Worship Rod Delaney.
I'm gonna stand off one side here.
So last week I had the privilege to be included in the town of Pooch Cove's tribute for the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the Waterwitch tragedy. To witness such profound respect from your community to ours was memorable of itself. Thank you to Pooch Cove from Cupid's. To quote an account from the Pooch Cove Heritage Society, 2025 is the 150th anniversary of the Waterwitch disaster. During the terrible storm, the night of November 29th, 1875, the Waterwitch, a Cupid's Bay schooner, was lost in Horrid Gulch near Pooch Cove. Against all odds, survivors from the shipwreck were able to scale incredibly steep cliffs to pull themselves up out of Horrid Gulch, and then made the treacherous hike to find help from the first home they encountered on land shore, the Lankmead House. Immediately, the people of Pooch Cove came together and assembled a rescue crew and set out to Horrid Gulch. The rescuers saved many lives that night despite unbelievable conditions. That night has inextricably linked the communities of Cupid and Pooch Cove as they continue to commemorate the disaster and the heroism shown that night, unquote. There were 25 souls on board, and of these, 8 men and 4 women perished. That 13 souls were rescued was by the determination and the fighting spirit of the Pooch Cove residents that answered the call for help without hesitation. We are forever in their debt. It is my immense honor that on behalf of our town council, our residents, our Friends for Heritage from the Legacy Center, Joanne and I, that I'm extending a warm and heartfelt welcome greeting to our friends from Pooch Cove and elsewhere. You are all most welcomed. So this is the plaque that was presented to the mayor of Pooch Cove on behalf of Cupids to him and the residents. The Waterwitch, a century and a half from 1875 to 2025. In appreciation for the selfless rescue performed on November 29, 1875 by the residents of Pooch Cove when the schooner Waterwitch went aground at Horrid Gulch with 25 souls aboard. The men and women of Pooch Cove saved and cared for 13. The bodies of 11 of the 12 victims were recovered by the fishermen of Pooch Cove and then returned to Cupid's. We are forever grateful. So you never turn your back on people.
I know Bill has a background in engineering, but I don't know if he's that good at tying knots. The idea of a joint committee to plan and execute complimentary events in Cupid's and in Pooch Cove for the 150th anniversary was given birth last year at the 149th anniversary event held in Pooch Cove in the fall of 2024. A joint committee was subsequently formed, comprised of representatives from both Pooch Cove and Cupid's. This planning committee met every month over the past year in St. John's. They met in a boardroom that was kindly provided by the engineering firm of Ralsell, Appleby, and Newton. And the committee, certainly their collaborative efforts have indeed been very, very commendable. I'd like to invite each committee member to come to the front of the hall now as I call your name. So from Pooch Cove Heritage Society, we have Monica Noseworthy. I'm not sure if all of these individuals are here, but I'd certainly like to acknowledge them. If they are here, I invite them to come forward. And if they're not, we'll acknowledge them anyway. So Monica Noseworthy, are you here, Monica? Here you go. Ken Pittman, Charlotte Richards, and Suzanne Whiteway. Monica, you're gonna carry the load all by yourself, girl. You've got broad shoulders, I know. From the Cupid's Legacy Center, Harold Eagerman. Dale Russell Fitzpatrick. And Bill Newton. And Bill is the chair of the joint committee. Up the line up here, I think someone wants to take your snap, folks. And you got the roses in the middle. The ones on the outside.
That's true.
I'm sure spouses would agree with that. All right, thank you very much, folks. You want to say that? Harold was pointing out to me that the flags that are on display from Pooch Cove and Cupid's, flag of Cupid's, flag of Pooch Cove are tied together in the middle. I know Bill Newton didn't tie them together. It's a signal, a symbol of the connection between the two communities. Sorry, Bill. We have some descendants here this evening, folks. Direct descendants of the survivors and the rescuers and the victims. At this time, I'd like, if you are a descendant of or connected to the family of one of the members of the following groups, and there are 3 groups, I ask that you stand in your place as your family or relative's name is called, and to remain standing until that full group has been identified. So we have, well, let me, how can I say this? I suppose I've got 24 names of people who are identified as rescuers from Pooch Cove. But we don't have hundreds of people here from Pooch Cove tonight. Myself and my brother and our 2 wives went to Ireland last year. We went to Thomastown looking for Laracies, L-A-R-A-C-Y, we spell her name. So we went looking for Laracies, L-A-R-R-I-S-S-E-Y, which is the way it was spelled when they left Ireland back in the late 1700s. You know how many we found? Not the one. We went into a pub and we asked the lady that was serving, she was in her 70s, never heard tell of the name. I said, talk to the 12 or 15 guys over in the corner having a lively conversation. She went over and she came back after a few minutes, never heard tell of them. Never heard tell of them. So it's 150 years since this event took place, right? People have moved on, families have, they've disappeared. Sometimes there haven't been any descendants. So we're going to call the names of all of the rescuers. We'd like to identify the ones that were involved from Pooch Cove. And again, I ask family members or relatives to stand in your place as I call your names. We have David Baldwin, Thomas Bassett, James Gould, William Gould, Reverend Reginald M. Johnson. We have 5 Langmeads, Eli, James Sr., James Jr., Uriah, and William. We have Alfred Moores, Robert Moulton, Christopher Mundy. We have 4 Noseworthies, Alan, Nathaniel, Thomas, and William. We have James or Will Purcell. We have William Ryan Sr. and William Ryan. We have 2 Sullivans, John Sullivan and Thomas. We have Edward Walsh. And finally, we have Nathaniel Williams. All of these are the rescuers from Pooch Cove. Second group, on behalf of the survivors from Cupid's. If I can find them.
That page.
We have a total of 13. They are Richard Ford, 2 Ivamies, Thomas and Henry, George Thomas Noseworthy, Samuel Rowe. We have 5 Spracklins, Henry William, Captain Samuel, Samuel Percy, Thomas, and William E. We have 3 Wells, George, James, and finally William. And these are descendants of those who were rescued. Thank you. And finally, descendants of those who were lost. We have Joanna Croak, Elias Ford, George Ivany, We have 6 Spracklins, Malvania, Moses R., Jonathan, Elizabeth, William, and Priscilla. We have Solomon Taylor, Samuel Wells, and finally Richard Weber, descendants of those lost. This time I'd like to call upon Reverend Bernice Sprackman to come forward, please, and offer us the grace for meals.
I was kidding around with somebody earlier, and talking about the fact that I was being asked to say grace. And I would never tell you how many hundreds of times I've said grace at a public gathering. And I told my friend that I think one of these times I'm going to get up and I'm going to say, God is great, God is good, let us thank Him for our food. But all jokes aside, isn't that succinctly what's behind everything that's happened here today? God is great, and God is good. And because we are people who understand what it means to have to work, to grow our food, to fish for our food, to prepare our food, we have to do it in community. And what more can I say? Remain at your seats, because we're going to have a wonderful meal, because God is great. God is good. Let us thank Him for our food. Amen. Thank you.
And on that note, folks, we shall have our meal. Enjoy. I shall return.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Just. Why are you always testing me? I can feel it in my heart. I know that we're apart. Why are you always testing me? I pondered on those days gone by. I pondered on those days gone by, as I sat beside the bed and gazed upon the setting sun as it sank beneath the hill. Harold was down there making strange gestures at me. I think he means shut up. Okay, I'm back. Thank you, folks. I think I'm in a little bit of trouble. I'm in trouble first with Maria because she asked me to make a correction, and I neglected to do so. In your programs, under the souls lost, if you read down through them, I've already read them, but so the last one, the very last word there is Elias. It should be Elias Ford. Elias Ford. And the spacing is a little bit mixed up there. I'm in trouble. My wife, who is one of the servers here tonight, she has gray hair. I told her I wouldn't point her out to anybody. But I said, honey, how am I doing? She said, you're talking too much. So we're going to get Vern up here. Before we do, it's a pretty sad event, isn't it, that happened in 1875. I'm just going to try and lighten it a little tiny bit for you. I'm going to read what's on one of the headstones in the mass grave behind the church. There are 3 headstones there. And one of them is for a man by the name of Moses R. Sprackman. And it reads as follows: in memory of Moses R. Sprackman, who deeply regretted by a loving family and by a society of which he was a worthy and consistent member, was drowned in the disaster of the schooner Waterwitch near Cape St. Francis, November 29, 1875, age 27 years. That's not the thing that struck me about it. Underneath that, on the bottom of the headstone, the following inscription can be found. It reads, he lingers with us, sweetly in memory yet. The past we never can forget. And while we think of union sweet that's gone, and union sweeter that is yet to come, we bow submissively to God's decree, trusting in heaven our friends again to see. Acceptance of the will of God and profound faith. In the summertime, I do a bit of riding around the province. Over in Norris Point, there's a headstone, a little tiny grave, as an inscription. There are many different iterations of it. They're all say essentially the same thing. And it's something for us to ponder. It's the person in the grave speaking to the person that's standing looking down at the grave. And the headstone reads as follows: Pause, stranger here, as you pass by. As you are now, so once was I. As I am now, you too shall be. Prepare for death and follow me. Now, an enterprising Newfoundlander walked through the grave one day and he had a black marker. This is in a white headstone, a marble colored headstone. He took out his marker and he, after having pondered the content of the inscription, took his marker and he scribbled the following underneath: To follow you, I am not content, for I do not know which way you went. I don't think there was the same sense of faith, acceptance of the will of God, or confidence in the loving mercy of God. Vern passed me this. This is a little bit of a bio. Now, there's 14 pages long, so I'm not going to read it all for Vern. And it has Vern Whalen written on the top. Now, I grew up in Cupid, so I don't know who Vern Whalen is, because when I was growing up, all I ever knew him as was Bucky. So he's Vern Whalen to some people, Bucky to others, and Broad to others. He was born in Cupid's in the suburb of Key Road. Moved to St. John's to complete his high school education at Prince of Wales Collegiate. From there to London, followed by 2 years training in laboratory science. Worked 41 years in the laboratory, specifically biochemistry. He's also a certified forensic analyst. Spent 1 month in India teaching laboratory medicine. Retired as director of laboratory medicine at the Healthcare Corporation in St. John's. A founding and charter member and past president of the Provost Club of St. John's. Spends a fair bit of time in Cupid's in the summertime, less in the wintertime. He plays guitar in a music group. I didn't know that, Vern. He entertains at senior homes in and around St. John's and volunteers. You may have heard him on VOWR, the voice of Bucky. What's your radio name, Buck? Today's talk is going to be on an event that occurred in 1875, of course, 150 years ago. You're going to be talking about the bond that still exists between the communities of Poochco and Cupid's. The floor is yours, Buck.
I could give a lecture alone on my name, right? Neither one of them is correct. My real name is Caleb. So if I go to the hospital or to a doctor or on a flight or in another country, I'm Caleb. I come over here, if I go down the harbor, I'm Vern. If I go in the road, I'm Bucky. Still, this day. Yep.
Some of your cards follow.
Oh, yeah. I don't need that anyway.
What's your head when you come up? Do you need a moment?
No, I don't need them.
You don't need them? You
No,
sure?
I just got that in case someone asks a question. Anyway, what an honor to be asked to give the inaugural lecture for historic stories of Cupid, really, and tonight's is going to be mainly on and Waterwitch. But I am going to throw a few other things in that I think a lot of people don't really understand. I'm not going to elaborate on, but I just want to say a few things just to let you know some things went on in Cubit before. For instance, who knows that the first Rhodes Scholar for Newfoundland, Carbonear, right? His mother was born in Cubit. Who knows that the most decorated soldier in World War I who protected Ricketts was born in Cubit? There's a monument to him in other towns, nothing to him here. Playgrounds called after him. There's all kinds of stories like that about Cubits. For instance, we had two people on the terms of negotiation for Confederation. What other town in Newfoundland had two people? We had two. We had a guy who went to the Briar 4 times. I suppose nobody even knows it. And we had a really good hockey player, played with St. Bon's, right? Top team in Newfoundland. And when he wasn't playing with St. Bon's, he came home here and he coached the United Church team. But he was a good Catholic. St. Bon's. So we have lots to be proud of. So where's my thing for? Okay, so I'm going to start off talking about shipwrecks, because Waterwitch was a shipwreck, but that's not the first. We had the Azariah, March 1831. She ran up on the. I'm only going to do a very minute or so on this, and then go into the Waterwitch. She was up in back of the while on a Wednesday night at 12 o'clock. Beautiful, perfect night. The human hair, they say the guy on watch fell asleep. And 3 men got on a rock. They were there until Friday. It was 2 days before another boat came and got them. The Margaret Helen, she went to the ice, went down. It was like 32 people on her. Never heard tell of her again. Nobody knows why she went down. It was such a loss of life, and so many children without a father, and widows, and senior people depending on their son, that the clergy of the day wrote to government and said, can we have 54 barrels of Indian meal come over to help those people? Okay. Oh. Next one, while he's getting that ready, the next one I had up was a Waterwitch. Okay, I'll discuss that. And then the one I had up after that was the Abbey. The Abbey went out to the ice again. Back in those days, it was like 30 people on her. And the Abbey went, the captain, she was rafted up on the ice, and the keel was taken off her. She sank. The captain told the crew to go walk across to another boat that was from Bear Roberts by Captain Masdell. The reason I put that one there, the captain of that one, that was in 1869, Sam Spracklin. And Sam Spracklin is the same captain who was on the Waterwitch. And the other one I had there, many people around here, in fact, some people got some stuff from her, was the Waimota. She went down in 49 and lost. 2 of the boats had no loss of life. Anyway, you got that up for me now? So that's how I'm going to introduce it with, I need the tongue. This is a picture, the closest we can come that I've ever seen of the actual Waterwitch, right? As they're under full sail. Okay. Hit the arrow on my computer if you enter that. There's a model of the Waterwitch that's downstairs. Now, the Waterwitch was 69 feet long. She was 19 foot 2 inches wide. She was 8 feet deep. She had 2 masks, fully wooden built, but they had a straight keel and what they call a fiddlehead bow. there's a little bit of not understanding some was where she was made. I found that she was actually made in Trinity, but the record that we got here, and it just says Trinity Bay. And that was the original record of her. I just read it right here. That's the actual registration of the Waterwitch. And there's a number right there. And that's all the stuff is about her. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, this was where Sam Spratlin lived. You can see this house is up there today. That's the dig site. And that's two Spratlin houses. That's not the same Sam Spratlin that was on the boat out, because that guy came in 1813. But that's the two Spratlin houses, and the other one is one Isaac Dow bought in 1924. So that's where they lived. I put this up here because I was going to use my pointer, but I haven't got a pointer now. Look, drown, right? And look at drown. Survive. So that's the Spratlin family tree as it was at that time. Me, I'm right here, right? Charlotte Spratlin, married Elias Ford. So that's my connection. And I just put that there so you can see. And up in the top, you'll see in 18 and 17, Sam Spratlin came to Cupid's. I'm going to divert from the Waterwitch for a minute, because a lot of people are going to be interested in this. He came to Cupid's and lived. And he had a granddaughter, Priscilla. And Priscilla, and Priscilla married William Keating. And we all know who William Keating was in Cupid's. Keating's Road is out. He was a big shipbuilder, and he was a successful businessman. And in fact, the old Millbrook can be traced back to him. And also Smiths. His granddaughter married George Smith and brought the Smiths to Cupid's, and they were a dynasty themselves, right? But what I wanted also to tell you, that was Priscilla, okay? So Keating himself came from Harbor, Maine, and he was one of Cupid's most successful business people. And the land that Sam Spratlin gave him was in the plantation paper, marked 407, I believe. So that's a bit about the Spratlin family. Okay. That weekend, why I'm going to tell you now why she was in town, right? She was probably tied up down to one of the wharfs downtown, the Waterwitch. Back then, the people who had boats like this, they used to go to the Labrador. They didn't go down with other people and be hired, and they used to go and they'd get their own boatload of fish. They'd bring home the fish, and in the fall of the year, they'd make a first-class product. And for those of us, and many of us here worked in the fish plant, the stuff they used to call West India, they used to get something like 4 or 5 cents a pound, but the top grade, they'd probably get 80 or 90 cents a pound. That's a big difference. So these guys made a finished product to get top price. In November, they would go in town, sell their fish, get their money, get their provisions for the winter, and get ready for next year. And that's what the Waterwitch was doing in town. Okay, and I guess the Waterwitch, they had a lot of, the use was common for them to take family members and friends. Obviously, there was a lot of family on the Waterwitch, most of them. 25 of them, I can guarantee you 23 were related to Spratlins. Either, sons, daughters-in-laws, and like that, or so Monday evening, the 29th, Captain was ready to leave St. John's. It says, and the times I have problems leaving, like I might be off an hour on the time sometimes. It said he left around 4 o'clock. It wasn't a bad day, it wasn't a good day, but the captain was nothing he had never sailed in before. And he sailed to go down to come to Cupid's. So also was another boat there from Cupid's, the John Bull by the Marines, and was a lot of other boats in the harbor. Another one that I'm going to tell you about was the Oakwell. Hopewell. She left Cubits at the same, she left St. John's same time as the Waterwitch St. John's. Waterwitch was bound for Cubits, the Hopewell was bound for Harbour, Maine. So when they got outside, the Narrows was around 6 o'clock, they said, and going out through the harbour, reports say they were all on deck, and then the wind, it got cold, right? So they got out and they all went inside. Now there's 18 miles from St. John's to Pooch Cove, out, through Flat Rock, Torbay, Logie Bay. It's 18 miles. So they were sailing back towards, can you put on the next slide, please? See, this is where, you see the green one? The green mark I got up there, well, that's St. John's, and they were going to leave the St. John's, walk around Cape St. Francis, come down, come into Cubits. But when they got down off Torbay, past Torbay, down past Flat Rock, was now like 8:30 in the evening. A vicious storm came up, right? And the boat ran into, as we all know, Horrid Gulch, right? Right in this, just down about a mile north of Pooch Cove before you get out to the Cape. Next one. So they hit the Cape. They hit the rock Horrid Gulch about, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the night, 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the night. They hit the Cape. Hit the Horrid Gulch. I want you to put on now. Okay, go to the next one. Now this past summer, a bunch of us from Cubits, we went over to Pooch Cove. We walked out the Horrid Gulch. Beautiful day, East Coast Trail path, and it took us well over an hour. And there was a few in there that didn't even make it. They're not in that picture. So we walked out the Horrid Gulch. Now, next one, please. As you're walking out to Horrid Gulch, this is Horrid Gulch. We're walking out here. Okay? So that's what it looks like when you're going towards, and we're a nice ways out from Pooch Cove. The next one. And now we're out to the Horrid Gulch looking back. I wish I had my pointer. Up there is Pooch Cove. That's how far out Horrid Gulch is from Pooch Cove. And we walked all through these trees, and it took us well over an hour to get there. Next one. That's Horrid Gulch in the summer, I guess. As you can see on the right-hand side, there's a cliff. That cliff, according to the reports, is 100 feet straight down. On this side over here, there's a ledge. So the boat came into the Waterwitch, and smashed up. Next slide, please. Now that's Horrid Gulch on a nice day in the winter. You see how rough it was, right? And that's the cliff on the right-hand side that I'll tell you about later. And the one on the left-hand side is the way the three men, when the boat got off, went up over the hill. Now just go to the next one. Now I want you to read this. I put it there so we can read it. It says, from one of the men, I can't read it here, Peter. I'm going to have to move out here. I can't see it. Read it. I had my slide.
Get rid of slack.
It's, right. It said from one of the men.
You come. You see there?
Yep. This is from one of the men rescued from the wreck. I obtained today the particulars. My name is George Thomas Noseworthy. Descendants here tonight, right? When the vessel came into Gulch and her quarter near the rock, Henry Ivney, descendants down there today, Michelle Don, and I jumped in. The vessel then went out again, and I think about 20 minutes after, though it may have been longer, she came close again. And William Wells, Thomas Ivney, Samuel Bow, most places call him Rowe, and I believe it was Rowe, but there was Bows there at the same time. William Spracklen and Thomas Spracklen jumped safely. We were not there very long before the craft smashed up. We heard No shrieks from those on board. All night it was thick, with the exception of about 1 hour when it cleared, but soon got showery again. We knew the skipper and the others were on the other side. We shouted, and they shouted to us. We heard them say they could climb the cliff if it was day, and they begged them to try it once. When help came, we knew it, for we heard the strange voices. We kept shouting all night. The spray dashed over us constantly, and every 20 minutes or so a large sea would come and dash right over us. I was almost gone. We had to crunch and cling close to each other as we saw the sea coming. So now, next slide. I showed you the one what was like they were in the water now. Thomas wrote that next day. So from 1 a.m. that's Tuesday. Remember, I said you left 6 o'clock in the evening. Now it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So these three men, they walked in that path that I told you that was a long walk and went into the Pooch Cove. The most northern house in Pooch Cove was Eli Langmead. And they got to his house, you figure, about 11 o'clock in the night. Now, I know, we've heard a lot of this today, but this was what I had prepared because I didn't know how this was going to be done beforehand. So he goes up 11 o'clock at night, these three men, and knocks on his door. He gets up and turns on his lamp, and he opens the door. And he said he saw three men there that was nearly dead, from cold, wet. And he said, I got him in my house. I got the story from him. I knew immediately he was in Ora Gulch. So he said, I got his wife to look after those men. And he went to Pooch Cove. This is now between 11 and 12 o'clock in the night, and organized 24 men, including the Reverend Reg Johnson. And Johnson, this is why one of the reasons why it was so well known, this shipwreck. Everything was recorded. It was recorded by three people. Reverend Reg Johnson, he went with the rescuers. There was also the Methodist minister there, George Bond, who was a brother of Sir Robert Bond, and the Roman Catholic principal of the school. And they all took distinct jobs, right? And so all this was recorded by prominent people who could record, right? And so anyway, so now he goes, and they figures by 1 o'clock in the morning, these 24 men left, and they walked out to Horrid Gulch. They went down on the ledge where the Captain Tony came in, and they could see nothing. So they all went up to the top of the hill, which they said is 600 feet high. Now, when they left, they took some supplies with them that they thought they would need. They brought 2 coils of rope that was 1,000 feet long, that's 85 fathom. They brought a 4 or 5 small pieces of rope. They bought a bottle of brandy, and they bought probably an axe and other things they thought. So by 3 o'clock in the morning, they're trying to devise a plan. Remember, there's a stormy, it's dark, there's no lights anywhere. They know there's men at the bottom of the cliff. So they throw this rope tied to a tree, and they space the men equally going down till they get down. And the first man was Alfred Morris, 43-year-old man. He volunteered to be the lead. Till he gets down to about 100 feet from the shore. That solid cliff that I told you, didn't know what they were going to do. So as Peter said in his recitation today, they tied him to a rope, and he said, I'll go. And they threw him over the cliff 3 times before he got footing for his cliff to get down. So now he gets down to the bottom of the cliff, close enough that he could see him and hear him screaming. And Thomas knows with his letter, he said, we heard the voices and everything else. So he gets him the rope, he passes him the rope, they tie the rope around themselves. And by daylight, it says, and it was this time of the year, so what are we talking about? That past 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, they had all those men all up to the top of the cliff. And then he looks and he sees this Welsh young fellow, the boy that they talked about, 16 years old. He was by himself, it says, a small distance from the other men. And they got him, he had no shirt on, he had no cap, he had 1 shoe, and he had no mitts. And they got him up. And so they got him all up to the top of the cliff. When they got him to the top of the cliff, they gave everybody a drink of brandy. And then they had runners or walkers, and they brought them as they come up. They brought them back into Pooch Cove, and the people looked after them. Let's see what the next slide is. Well, Peter read out that's the list of the 24 people who went out there that night. Now, there's an old book, they never had cameras in them days, but there's an old book in there, pictorial record of historic things that happened in 1497 to 1887. And that's what drawings they had of the Waterwitch, hanging a man over the cliff and climbing down. Next one. Now, I got a little bit on AI there about a week ago. I said, I must make a couple of AI pictures. This is not real. I did this with AI. That's what it would look like. They were tied to ropes going down over a cliff, water like that, between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning. Next one, please.
Who's on the cliff there?
I don't know who it was.
You?
No, that was Pooch Cove people. I got no relatives in Pooch Cove. And then I put another AI one in there just to show you what it was like. The men are up at the top of the hill throwing it, right? Just so the visual. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. Now, where are we going next? Yeah, you already know that, right? We just said that these are the rescued, their ages, and the lost, right? I'll get back to Joanna Croak afterwards because someone said about Joanna Croak. I'll get back to that afterwards. Next one. Okay, now it's Tuesday, right? Tuesday morning. Season's very rough, and the men go out in their boats with cod jiggers. That day, they recovered Elizabeth Sprackland. Sally recovered the first day. Now, something else happened. You remember I told you there was a boat left for Harbour, Maine, same time. 2 o'clock that afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, the mail boat left St. John's bound for Carbonear. When she got off, who's called people those names? There's a rock out there close to the Cape. Get the name of it now, the Brandy. Anyway, they noticed a man, one man, standing on a rock by himself. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They spent 3 hours. The sea was so rough to try to get that man off the cliff, off the rock. He couldn't get there by the boat. So what they did was they threw him a rope, and he jumped in the water, and they hauled him aboard the boat. That was Mr. Waugh, W-A-U-G-H, from Harbour, Maine. The other 7 people on the boat from Harbour, Maine, never ever seen him again. And the people in Pooch Cove didn't know it because he was way, way out by the Cape. So that was just as a big for Harbour, Maine. Next one, please. So Wednesday, they recovered 6 bodies. And the 6 bodies I have them listed here. Malvina Sprackland, Solomon Taylor, George Ivany, Jonathan Sprackland, Elias Ford, my great-grandfather, and Richard Weber. They also recovered the captain's portmanteau. Now, I don't know, people may say, I don't know what a portmanteau is, but you all probably got a portmanteau. Remember years ago, we used to have those suitcases that folded over and you had a handle on the top? That was a portmanteau, and the captain used to put his clothes on one side and they'd put their papers on the other side of the suitcase. They said that the captain's portmanteau had a lot of money into it, right? And rightfully so, because he had sold his load of fish. And then the government officials started arriving from town, Mr. Lilly from the Clerk of the Peace and Mr. Dunphy from the poorhouse. And slaves began to arrive from St. John's to bring the bodies home. Back to town, I'm sorry. Next one, please. Thursday, 4 a.m. For some reason, when they brought the bodies back to town, they always left 4 a.m. in the morning. 7 corpses left Pooch Cove for St. John's. They were coffined and stored in the shed at the drill hall on Military Road. And they recovered 4 more bodies in Pooch Cove. Moses, William, Priscilla Sprackland, and Samuel Wells. 1 body was never recovered. I'll get back to that later. So now they have 11 of the 12 bodies. Next picture, please. So Friday, December the 3rd, 4 a.m., the bodies that were recovered the day before left Pooch Cove. And they arrived in St. John's at 10:30 in the morning. So now they put them aboard the ship Cabot, bound for Cupid. 13 survivors and 11 victims. And at 12 noon, this was from a Pooch Cove writing, at 12 noon on Friday, the steamer Cabot was seen passing Pooch Cove with her freight of living and dead, and with the melodic satisfaction of having done our best for both, we, as the people of Pooch Cove, we return to our everyday life sadder, but I hope, in a spirited point of view, wiser men. Okay, so now that was exactly 3.5 days in Pooch Cove. Now they're on their way back to Cubas. Next picture. So when they come in Cubas, there's the picture where they landed. That's Smith's right here. Smith Wharf. Smith's Wharf, right? The road to Brigus, even Skipper Benz is there. And another lecture, I can tell you a history of all those houses, but that's not for tonight. And when they came in, about 4:30 in the afternoon, the horses were lined up with a coffin for every one of the coffins to bring them back to their home places, right? And I think later on you're going to see a picture. And remember, see horses? Well, that's where the reason the horses is there, because that's what they came in for. Now I'm going to read some stuff that's in their own words, because it's better than what second or third or fourth hand for the next few slides. Next one, please. So this is now Friday. It happened on Monday night, 12 o'clock. And so there's very, very, very little written on this in Cubans, okay? All this is due to the brave acts and the heroic deeds that the people in Pooch Cove did. This was all written up and they all got medals, but I can't do that tonight because that's a full night in itself, right? They all got medals, gold watch, not all of them, but you know, the ones who needed it. So there was very, very little recording in Cubans, but I did come across a few things. So they said here, the first intelligence of the sad affair reached our ears and was prudently and cautiously withheld until the following day, when the families were so suddenly bereft of their friends, were visited by the Reverend Ladner, and you already heard that today, and Eel, who not only informed of the painful calamity, but endeared to assuage their grief and direct their minds to the only source of comfort under the painful bereavement. But like Rachel of old, they refused to be comforted because those who they loved were not. And if you went to the sermon this morning, not sermon, this afternoon's edition, Reverend Spratlin read the same thing, Rachel of old. Now Rachel was somebody in the Bible, I forget, I'm not going there either. Yeah, but also something happened in her life, the same kind of a thing. So this is going on to talk about the distress wrung from sorrow-stricken hearts and the piercing screams of the children of the departed and their heart-touching appeals such as, Pa will not come home. Pa will come home, I'm sorry. Pa is not lost, he must come home. So the boat comes into Cubits and Reverend Ladler and he boards the cabin. They meet the survivors with the greetings of commiseration and they watch over the landing of the dead bodies. Hundreds of sympathizers and friends gathered to witness the sad scene and afford all the help and consolation that they could for the occasion. And like I said, horses and convenience for the taking of the corpses were to their respective homes were in readiness. It's Friday night. Okay. Now, next one, please. I basically just said that. You can go again now. Now, nothing I could find written up about Saturday and Sunday in Cubans. Obviously, you know as well as I know it was like a pretty sad event, right? So I'm going to jump now to the church service. So the church service and the interment was 2 p.m. Monday, December the 6th. Again, you would have heard that this afternoon. But that's exactly 1 week when she left St. John's, right? And in the thing it said there was 2,000 people, of which only 500 could get in the church. So the minister preached from the front step. And his sermon, same as Bernice did today, was based on Luke 12:4, where he warned the hearers of the subtle approach of death and the necessity of the preparation which alone will not endure happiness and safety of all the vicissitudes. And vicissitudes is things that happen in our life, you know, like quick changes, like probably someone dies, you know, everything is happy today and tomorrow someone's gone. And these things happen to us all the time. That's what that means. And at the burial, when they were putting all these people down in the mass grave, they sang the same hymn that we sang today, and that was Charles Wesley hymn, "Come, let us join our friends above," while the corpse is being deposited in the grave. And I just put in one verse from that hymn. Look, one family we dwelt in him, one church above beneath. Though now divided by the stream, the narrow stream of death, one army of the living God, to his command we bow. Part of his host has crossed the flood, and part are coming now. And there was 9 coffins side by side on the brink, and they put them down in the grave. Next one. Now I just put that there. That's the words of the hymn they sung. But we don't need to do it because again, we sang that in church this evening, and all I was going to do was click on that, and they would sing the choir would sing it. Now, okay, so now that's pretty well finished. So they had a committee set up to administer funds. There was a lot of money came in. It was £400, English pounds, and that was back 150 years ago when all the conversions and changes. I wouldn't dare attempt to convert that today, but someone said it was the equivalent of $40,000. I don't know. Now, the interesting thing was some families declined because they knew others needed it worse than they needed it. But there were 7 families received funds, and they were helping 27 children and 7 spouses. And the amount you received was dependent on your need. Like you could have a spouse and 2 children, and you probably got £50. But the next woman had a spouse and 2 children, and she probably only got £5. It depended. For instance, one of the Welleses in Salmon Cove, she had a lot of property. So they said she's not really she's not really in need. She can sell her property. So she got less, even though she had the same amount of children. And of course, people donated wood, vegetables, and fish, and all that kind of stuff. And again, you heard this today. Only 2 headstones erected by the family that could afford it. There was 2 names on one headstone, and there's one on the other headstone, and they were Sprackland people. Right? And all the 9 from Cuberts were buried in the mass grave, right? 15 meters back in the church. 1 Sprackland was elsewhere, and 1 Wells in Salmon Cove, right? And 1 was not found. And in 2013, the Cuberts Historic Society put the monument out there with the 12 names on it. Now, I lived in Cuberts all my life, right? I can probably well remember 75 years more. And I've never heard anybody talk about the Waterwitch until 2013. So it wasn't something that was talked about here in Cupid, so we knew nothing about it really, only, I guess, those of us in the family. And, I can look at all these tables and I can see people from the different families here, right? Like, the Wellses and the Lakes are not here, the Lakes would be here, and the Birch, the Bakers, all the Whalens, we have Fords, right? And Michelle Dawes down there, she's an Ivney, right? I don't think Wablaski is here, she's an Ivney. So they're all descendants, lots of them still around. And this thing is after bringing them all back together. Now let's go to the next picture. I said all that. Oh, no, just go back. Some of the Cubert's notes that are recorded was signed by RBP, right? And that was Robert B. Pittman. He was the principal of the school at the time, and he lived in the dwelling down here by the schoolhouse. And the rest, oh yeah, the bell for the church that was coming. There was only one reference to this in the history, and that's that Newton Morgan wrote this up back in the, I don't know, probably the 1950s. And the bell for the Waterwitch, because most of these people on the Waterwitch were Methodist, and on the board of the Methodist Church, 3 of them were. So they were well in with the Methodist people, and so I guess they were bringing the bell to Cubas, but they recovered the bell later, right? Now let's go. I got more. Oh yeah, okay, that's the headstone that they erected in 2013, the Cupid Historic Society. Next one. Now, everybody talks about the body that wasn't recovered. Joanna Croak, 19 years old. Boy, I'll tell you, this committee, and thanks to Judy Foote, who got a lot of resources when it goes to history, guess what was found? Look, December the 21st, this is money that the government paid out for shipwreck stuff. December the 21st, the schooner Waterwitch of Cubits, Sprackland the Master, paid Richard Grace on account of the dead body of B. Croak, 17 shillings and sixpence. So she was found, and she's buried in Shoe Cove. I was talking to a man last week in Shoe Cove. He knows where she's buried, and I don't know, Dale, am I going to commit us to anything? No, I'm not. Anyway, we'll go to the next one. Like I said, I couldn't give anything about Footscove. Footscove is a lecture or two in itself. All these men put their life at risk. You imagine 2 o'clock being tied to a rope and hanging down over Sparticle Head in a snowstorm? Yeah, right. There's a road out there now by Cornerbrook. She's been out there a year and she's still not off the rocks. Anyway, next scene, please. The old church and the current church. I'm going to get into after Waterwitch now because I got a couple more little facts I want to tell the people of Cubits. And Andrew, you better be listening because boy, you got a lot of work to do. Next one. So we talked about the church that was built there in 1875. It was opened. Now there was a church built in Cubits in 1934. Before that was Wesleyan. And I'm giving you this for a bit of very interesting information. It won't be long. Methodism and Wesleyan only started in the late 1700s. And Newfoundland was one of the first in North America to be big with it. And was big down in Harbour Grace, Blackhead, Western Bay. Okay? But then you come up the bay to Brigus and Cubits. There was also a pocket of Methodists in Brigus and Cubits. There was about 1,000 people in Cubits. Now, there was a big Methodist in Brigus, Cousins, right? He was the magistrate and the big businessman, but he was a big Methodist, and he was funny, and he used to meet in other people's homes and that, right? And they had a young fellow by the name of John Piercy, similar to our Brett Daw, if you remember. We had Brett, who used to get up in the pulpit, and he could preach better than any minister, right? Hey, I wasn't talking about you, Bernie. But you know, the hat fits. He was a really good preacher, right? And so John Piercy was a school teacher, 19 years of age, living in Burgess, but he used to go as far in as Juniper Stump and Clark's Beach and Cubits on occasions and give them the little bit of faith they wanted in church. But Burgess was happy because they were getting what they were wanted. Cubits was very unhappy, right? The people, the big Methodist, Coughlin was one down there, right? He was an Anglican priest, by the way, but he was in charge of Methodism in Newfoundland. So the people in Cubits, this was my point, 500 of them joined what they called Papists. 500 was converted from Methodist to Catholic because they were unhappy with what they were getting from their own religion. Guess what that did? That got the attention of the people down in Western Bay, right? So they come running. And they got John Piercy and they sent him over to England, and he became the first Methodist preacher, probably in North America, fully trained down over in London. And he came back in 1802, and from 1802 up until the present day, every birth, every burial, every wedding is recorded in Cubits and Brigus. So anybody who's all they're recorded, right? So I wanted to just tell you that little piece of history, right? Now, this one got stopped. I got one more little thing I want to tell you. Okay, look, this is an historic picture in my opinion. Look, front church of Cubits, 15 years ago. Danny Williams, Premier Newfoundland. Our current king and queen, Prime Minister Canada and his wife, and I believe the Governor General and the governor and the Lieutenant Governor of Newfoundland was also in that church. That's an historic picture, let me tell you. Okay. This is the last one I want to close with. So Jacinta, get ready. In 1910, August the 17th, 300 years after John Guy landed in Cubans, the old boys from Cubans, I don't think they were all from Cubans. I think they were from generally everywhere around because the flag itself, the one that's the back of this, was designed by a guy in Harvard Greece. They presented the people of Cubans with the big flag. Everybody knows the Union Jack. It flies to today, right? And this Reverend Dr. George Smith, he was at the day, I would say, a doctor of sociology, right? He was helping the less, the needy people. That was his whole thing in life. But he also was a Methodist minister. So I think he may have been the chair of the old boys club. But anyway, when he was presenting the people of Cubans the flag, here's what he read to them. This is a quote. I wrote this down. And you can get it in the Daily News, 1910. 2 red letter days shine in the history of Cubans. 300 years ago, when John Guy dropped anchor in Cubans, this little settlement began the building of a great empire. Now remember, we weren't part of Canada. This wooded settlement, the end no man knoweth. It will depend on the honesty and intrepidity and industry of its people. He then passed them the flag, the largest flag to ever fly in North America, as a holy, sacred thing, urging them to love, honor it, and be worthy of it. The pole he held out as an example of their lives to be like it, supple and pliable as steel, yet as strong as steel. And I think we did a good job, and Jacinta, can I depend on you? Where are you? Let's do the usual that Jacinta does first. Yep. We're going to do the ode, please.
I do remember actually my mom, who was born in Cupid's, Loretta Bean. She was born in Cupid's, and I remember my Aunt Mary, who was born in 1915, and I do remember them talking about the Waterwitch. But you know, when you're a little child, you don't remember the details about it. And though we had no family members that actually went down with the Waterwitch, my mom's and my family's neighbors were affected by that, and that's how we build our history, is when those stories are told, when the women are sitting around, when the men were gone to the Labrador. And that's how our stories were kept alive. And one of the things I think we are blessed with is that of the indomitable spirit of Newfoundlanders, and the way that we have always found a way to rescue and found a way to support in the worst of times. And whether it was tragedies at sea or something, as we've been celebrating lately with the Come From Away, it is part of who we are. Maybe it's because we're island people and we know that we have to cling to each other. But to be a part of something like that is the reason, and kudos to all of you on this committee for filling in these details that I never knew. It's an incredible story. Anyway, the Ode to Newfoundland, which we are probably one of the only provinces in Canada that has its own ode. And though it was only written in 1902, it was not around at the same time as this, but it certainly speaks to the people that we are. Please join in singing the first and last verse of the Ode to Newfoundland. When sun rays crown thy pine-clad hills, and summer spreads her hand When silvern voices tune thy rills, we love thee, smiling land. We love thee, we love thee, we love thee, smiling land. As loved our Father, so we love. Where once they stood, we stand. Their prayer we raise to heaven above. God guard thee, Newfoundland. God guard thee, God guard thee, God guard thee, Newfoundland.
I forgot to mention one other thing that was important in the history of Cubits. Very first strike in Newfoundland stopped Reed Railway. Just like that, 10 o'clock in the morning. All the machinists walked off the shop and everybody else. Organized by a guy here in Cubits, Bennett.
Just trying not to know.
Test 1, 2. Thank you, Vern. Very comprehensive. Thank you, Jacinta. Lovely voice. And you folks have lovely voices as well. I'm going to call Monica to come forward now, if you would please. Monica knows already. And we're going to have 2 unveilings. The first one, Monica is going to give you the background on it as relates to medals and the replicas of medals that were presented from the Royal Humane Society years ago. And subsequent to that, there's going to be another unveiling. The evening is getting on, so I'm going to ask your cooperation on a matter, and that is to hold your photograph taking to the end. We'll ask people to stay behind. The medals will still be here, the other item will still be here, and that will give us a chance then to expedite the remainder of the evening. So if you cooperate on that, it would be much appreciated. So with that, Monica, I'll turn things over to you.
Hi, my name is Monica Nosworthy. I'm from Pooch Cove. I'm on one of the directors on the Pooch Cove Historical Society. And I was one of the ones that gathered a year ago with Cupid Historical Society and wondered what we were going to do. And that's what we came up with. 2 things over the summer and 2 things a week apart this month and last month. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the awards. If you look at your sheet, there's only 5 awards, medals awarded. But if you look at your sheet on the back, you will see there's 23 names. So there were many rescuers, and that's not counting the other people that helped out, the women. No women mentioned, of course, women were there, cleaning them up, thawing them out, feeding them, giving them warm clothing. So it was many rescuers. But anyway, when they decided to give medals, they wanted to give medals to somebody, I guess, they narrowed it down to the 5 men who went down the cliff, including Alfred Moores, who went to, swung 3 times and got on the end and got the men up, and 4 other people. And they awarded Alfred, I think should have got a gold, but he got a silver medal. And 4 of his friends, fishermen, got bronze. So these medals now are going to be awarded, going to be presented in a minute. But just want to say how we got those. It took us 150 years, but we couldn't find the medals, and as each generation went by, nobody knew where all the medals were. Yes, there's 5 medals, but nobody could remember any sign of them. Pooch Cove is a kind of a town that, like most Newfoundlanders, did not think it highly what they did. They just figured it was a day normal, I guess. They helped the people, they moved on, fished, and did whatever they did. So the medals weren't kept like in a locked vault or anything, so we couldn't find them. So two men this year on my committee, Gary Knight and Mayor of Pooch Cove, Brad Richards, we did know it came from the medals came from the Humane Society of Liverpool. So they contacted and phoned and kept phoning and everything, and finally got somebody who knew what they were talking about or was even willing to talk to them. Remember, it's 150 years ago. And they figured out the drawings, the sketches. They had them in their files, what they looked like. And what they did for us is they reproduced all of them. And so what we have here is 5 medals, 1 silver and 4 bronze of the 5 fishermen, 5 men that went down over the side and hauled up the Cupid's men, and now they lived to survive and raise their families. So here, you won't be able to see it very well from where you are, but like I think Peter said, wait until later and you come up and see them, but I am going to unveil them, and then you come up and see the pictures, they're in a glass case. Come up and have a look, and if you want to take a picture, you can. All right? There they are.
Thank you, Monica. And Bill. I need Bill Newton up here now. Bill, we're going to have another unveiling, and again, you introduce the principals involved in that and give us the details.
Good evening and welcome. As everybody knows, we started this committee a year ago, and of course we were meeting every month for the last year. It was indeed a pleasure to work with the Pooch Cove contingent and the Pootsies here, they call them. Anyway, so we put together, of course, the events that happened this year. There were 4 major events. 2 this summer, 1 in Pooch Cove and 1 here. Dinner last week, of course, and now our dinner tonight. But last week, I'm jumping. So the planning then was to get the medals, and so there they are. We got them from the Humane Society in Liverpool. Plaque presentation between the 2 towns, that was important. And then we said, now we'll get a local artist to do 2 art prints, one depicting something in Pooch Cove related to the Waterwitch, and one, of course, for Cupid's. So we engage Clifford George. Clifford, come up. So we asked Clifford to do these, and of course, after talking about the history of the Waterwitch and many meetings, we and of course Clifford is well known for his seascapes and his rocks and his cliffs. So we convinced him to do it, and he agreed to. So what we're going to unveil here.
Agreed and disagreed, didn't I?
But we had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of meetings. So we're going to unveil them, but now we're going to ask 2 people from Pooch Cove, Monica and her husband Dennis. Barry. Can you come up and stand by your Pooch Cove print? Now we won't unveil it right now. I'm going to call 2 people to unveil the Cupid's one. And they are Carl Cameron, who came here from BC. Is that correct? Right? Please come up and Judy Foote. Now these are descendants of the people from Pooch Cove, Waterwitch. Where's Judy Foote? Now go over and stand by this one. So we need a better lip for this podium. Okay, so what we're going to do now, Cliff, do you want to say anything first before we unveil them?
Yeah. I've been married about 56 years, is it Shirley? And nearly every 3 or 4 years, Shirley said, you know, my great grandfather helped build Waterwitch. So I believed her. And over the weekend, it was confirmed by a man named Max Goodyear that he got the records over her where she was licensed, and they did build her in Witless Bay, Trinity Bay, and our bay in Whiteway.
Whiteway.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when Bill asked me to do it, I had to go right down to the depths of the spirit to do this one.
Just right here. Okay, lift it right up over.
Same, same.
What?
Same in front of the church.
Well, you mentioned if you want, I said Clifford, I want some cliffs. We got cliffs. Okay,
Yeah.
girls, hey, ladies, hold on, Judy. Now you gotta do yours. Oh, you did it.
And what I use for the painting, I got some gravel down there in front of the church in Cupid, fine gravel. And as I painted the rocks, I put the gravel into the paint. So if you touch the painting, rub over, you can feel the gravel in it. This is it.
That's it for now.
Good.
If you want to get your picture taken with Cliff at the pictures.
And they're not prints, they're originals.
The originals, yeah. Now, to close the evening out, I just want to make a few thank yous because a lot of work has gone in this year, as you can appreciate. And, you know, remembering the story of Waterwitch, I think we brought it back to life. Now, we have a problem. We have these paintings. The intent is one will hang in Pooch Cove and one will hang in Cupid's. However, someone said, you know, the one from Cupid should hang in Pooch Cove and the one in Pooch Cove should hang in Cupid's, right? I say that right? Switch them around. So the jury is out on that, so we'll have to figure it out.
Maybe it should be on a rotating basis.
A rotating basis as well. That came up, Rick. I'd like to thank our donors. You know, we did go out looking for donations. One donor said to me, he said, "You need a sugar daddy." So we didn't find a sugar daddy, but we found sugar. But a lot of thanks has to go to Jody Wall and Helen, who went to bat for us. They were in opposition, but they did come up with the biggest donation we got. Thank you. And if that sugar daddy is out there anywhere, come see me. Of course, I'd like to thank our MP, Paul Connors, Helen again, and Mayor Rod. You know, bringing you greetings, and we appreciate you being here. I'd like to also thank now Harold Eggerman. Harold's on our committee, but he headed up the church program today, and that was a great job as well. So Harold, you can't go without being recognized. Thank you to the Reverend Bernice Spracklin, the descendant, for the service and your grace. Very well done. Thank you to Courtney Coffey and Heather Daw for the music in the church today. Again, well done, right? A big thank you to Vern Whalen for the first lecture. And you know, he's my fishing buddy, you know, but he doesn't know where to fish here. I don't know what's wrong with him.
You know, you can't tie knots.
A thank you to Bernice Morgan for filming this evening, the whole day. Joyce, is it? Joyce? Joyce, I'm sorry. A thank you to, of course, Skipper Benz for preparing all the food. Thank you to the Legacy staff who helped us this past month, putting everything together, right? And finally, a thank you to Peter Larity, who kept us going all night. So Peter, I'll pass it back to you.
We're getting near the end, folks. I guess there's one individual that we should thank, and he can't thank himself, and that's Bill. Bill acted as the chair of the joint committees. The committees certainly did a wonderful job of putting the events together and both the visitors. Word of thanks to all of you for showing up here tonight. I trust that you, because of your attendance here, but really all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have been inspired by the events that took place at Pooch Cove and Cupid's. And we've been inspired, I hope, to have a spirit of courage in the face of adversity, a spirit of resilience and persistence, and selfless collective action. So these are the things for us to ponder and reflect upon as we leave here tonight. Photo ops at the end, folks. You can fill your socks. Fill your socks. The individuals, Cliff is going to hang around, and Monica is going to hang around for photos and so on. I invite you all to, stay around if you like. And is the bar still open? She's saying yes. She's waving yes. That's good. And watch the moose on the way home. Drive carefully. And Jacinta and would you like to come up? We're going to do. Yes, we need two. Come on, girl. Mary Barry. Miss Barry, come on, Miss Barry. God save the king. We need someone to leave God save the king. You're going to do it from there, you're going to do it from up here. Come on. King is waiting. I still sing God Save the Queen. I'm so used to singing God Save the Queen.
I know.
I forgot we have a king.
Last time I sang that, it was definitely God Save the Queen.
So folks, with the conclusion of God Save the King, our official program this evening is over. Thank you so much for coming. And I give you a thank you, ladies, for coming up.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. You take it. God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Thank you, folks.